URC about to go on a break for the Six Nations, but the league decided that it would sign off with one of the biggest results that we've seen in the URC era. My name's Mark. Let's talk rugby. Another exciting weekend of URC action there. I was lucky enough to watch, 3 of the games live and be able to cover them on the channel as well. So I mentioned which ones because I've got full reviews on the channel as well if you want to go check those out. And yeah, when you think you know what's happening in this league and you got your finger a little bit on the pulse, then it's still able to throw up a shock and really show you that almost anything is possible in this league, and that's brilliant. I'm here for it all day, honestly. Even when it's teams that I'm cheering for that it's happening to, but we'll get to that a little bit later. We're going to go usual. We'll have a little talk about the results. Not too much focus on each of the games, which is a little bit. And again, I'll highlight the ones that I did do full reviews on if you want more details on those. Then once we've gone through the games, then we'll have a look at the table as well and just talk about how teams are positioned now as we go into a bit of a mini break. It's not a full break because there are games for some of the South African teams to kind of catch up. That didn't happen. Round 1 there were no South African teams playing in that, so there is a game for example on the 8th of February, but for the most part it's going to be on hiatus. So let's get into the games for the weekend. So first up was Ospreys 43, Benetton 0. A real kind of shocker, this one, given the fact that, Ospreys have been in very poor form. Benetton, in the Champions Cup, seem to have gotten themselves into a little bit of form, beating Bath, albeit, a much changed Bath side. And then that, amazing victory against La Rochelle as well, that really would have boosted them. And you would have thought, yes, players away with Italy, but Ospreys, had players missing too. But you would have thought the squad as a whole, would have got a boost from that. But it was all Ospreys in this. So, some really good tries. Walsh got over after about 9 minutes or so. I thought he had a really good game. I think he got a double in this game. Then Kasende had a brilliant game as well. Very lively, always looking for work, and really good recruitment as well from Ospreys. And that's what you need to see as well with the Welsh regions is a little bit more kind of cuteness in who they're recruiting. And to kind of bring on a bit of quality into their teams, not necessarily players who can be eventually Welsh qualified or anything like that. Just players in there that can bring the quality of the whole group up. And with that, then if you've got young players in there, etc., that can learn from them, that can play alongside them and improve beside them as well. I think that's good to see. So I think he was a really good player to bring in for Ospreys. And then Williams as well gets over. So they're already 3-0 up after 30 minutes. Go a bit quiet on the scoring front then. Until deep in the second half. Actually, the final quarter, Walsh kind of kicks it off again with his second try. Then, that's the bonus point try for them. And in the last 5 minutes, then you got Morse, and right at the death, Hardy gets over as well just to finish the rout. And it really was a rout. Ospreys playing some really good stuff there, and Benetton really struggling to do anything. They did Benetton did kind of start not too bad in the first kind of say about 5 to 8 minutes just before actually Ospreys got their try. Benetton were looking good, looking like they could find space out wide. But then once Ospreys got the nose in front, then Benetton really did struggle for the rest of the game from there. So this is one of the ones where I have a full review up on the channel. So you want to check it out, go have a look at that. But yeah, final score was 43-0 to Ospreys against Benetton. Okay, next then it was Emirates Lions 22, Vodacom Bulls 35. So this one, the Bulls actually start the game pretty well. First of all, penalty from Chamberlain, then Creel gets over for a try, and Chamberlain adds the extras as well. So they're 10-0 up. And then for the rest of the half, then the Lions just kind of clawed away back into the game. A couple of penalties from Francis, and then Van Wyk getting over for a try, with about something like 5 minutes or so to half time. He gets over. So Lions leading, narrowly 11 points to 10 at half time. Then into the second half we go, and the Lions looking to kind of stretch that lead. So a couple of penalties again from Francis, makes it, a little bit more comfortable for them, 7-point lead. But then Creel gets over for, it wasn't Creel. It was Creel converted, wasn't it? It was, he got the first try. It was Visa gets over. Sorry, Creel got the first try in the first half. Visa gets over for a try, and Creel converted it. And that brings them level then. And then it's a bit, back and forth. You got Oosthuizen is over for the Lions, but then back in front. And then Kutsia goes over for the Bulls. And, you got, I think in there as well, Chamberlain did Chamberlain the penalty before or after the try? Can't remember, but he got another penalty, and then Creel got a penalty as well. So Bulls, with a bit of a lead going into kind of the last 10 minutes or so, and just before we kind of hit the 10-minute mark, I think Van der Merwe gets over for the bonus point try as well. So I think the Bulls kind of were, once it kind of got back kind of level, I don't think they went behind again. I could be wrong on that. I think the penalties kind of kept their noses just in front. And then obviously they pulled away with the final two scores of the game as well. But, Lions, a decent first half. And I expected, given how well the Lions kind of started the season, I thought, at home against, a Bulls team who've had a bit of a third time in the Champions Cup, there might be something there for them. I thought at halftime, they showed some grit to get themselves, back in the game and back in front. And then they looked like they were doing the right thing by just keeping the scoreboard ticking over. But then, that period from about 50 minutes to about 65 or so, then, the Bulls, they scored 2 tries, a couple of penalties, and the tries are converted as well, which is important, to just the one unconverted try to the line. So that really was where it became a little more lopsided. And then Van der Merwe put the cherry on top with the bonus point try in the end as well. So a decent win for the Bulls. And you look at the Bulls now, and you wonder, you've got Leinster. I think Leinster and the Bulls, you would say, if you were looking at who are the top 2 best teams in terms of since the URC started who haven't won the championship, and it's got to be those 2. And you would hope, well, certainly as a Leinster fan, I'd hope that one of them is going to correct that soon. Whether it's going to be Leinster and the Bulls though, or the Bulls, is yet to be seen, because we've seen Leinster run away with the regular season before, and it's still not helped them in the knockout stages, including losing at home to the Bulls in a quarter final as well, or was it semi final? I know the Bulls in the first year beat Leinster on the way to the final anyway, where they lost to the Stormers. Final score, Emirates Lions 22, Vodacom Bulls 35 in that one. Then next one then is Scarlets 30, Edinburgh 24. So this one as well, like Scarlets, they start, again, a decent start for them. They get a couple of penalties from Lloyd, then Van der Merwe over for a try as well, and then Edinburgh started try and work their way back into the game as well. So Skinner gets over, and Healy converts that one for them. And then Harrison gets over just before half time, unconverted though. But then, Edinburgh right back in the game. Into the second half then, and you have MacLeod and Nicholas who, eke it out a little bit for the Scarlets. And, it looks like that, maybe they've got enough of a gap there. And then the last kind of 10 minutes then, Edinburgh get over, like you got Healy, and then Morris gets over as well. And that's the bonus point try for Edinburgh there. And then, it's kind of a bit of a knife edge a little bit. But then Lloyd, last minute penalty just to seal the victory for the Scarlets. So, really good win for Scarlets there, I think. And we're just seeing more of that, with them this season. If you compare them to last season, I talked about it where, when in a game like this as well, when the opposition came back at them, they didn't have that ability to go again and to kind of make sure that they're staying in the fight and not just kind of rolling over. And they seem to have much more grit to them this year. And we've seen it in this one as well, that they come out with the win here, and 3-point game. With a few minutes to go. Maybe the Scarlets of last year could have even lost the game, conceded a late try or something like that. But this season, they were able to tack on those extra 3 points. And, it's right at the buzzer as well. So there's no way that Edinburgh are going to be able to come back at them. So really good win for the Scarlets. Edinburgh, obviously going to be disappointed to lose. But, if you lose, next best thing for you really is to come away with 2 bonus points, and that's what they did out of that one. Okay, so on to the next one then. It's Leinster 36, DHL Stormers 12. So, first half, it was a really close run thing between them. Like, Leinster, you could see it as well in the opening few minutes. Like Leinster penalty, normally you expect, okay, go to the corner, but Byrne goes to the post instead, just to get something on the board early on. Then Osborne is over for a try convert by Byrne. Then Loader, who I thought, Ben Loader had a great game for the Stormers, and that's converted by Manny Lebock. Lebock injured in the game. Hopefully he's not out for too long. But then Dan Sheehan returning for Leinster, he gets over, and in the second half, then Leinster do that thing that they do so well, which is score a couple of tries in quick succession and turn what was a fairly close game into a very one-sided affair. So first of all, Barrett gets over from close range, really good line from him, and then Sheehan gets a second, and then a few minutes later then Osborne is over for his as well, for his second, that is. Then right towards the end then Evan Roos is over for the Stormers, about a couple of minutes to go, I think, in the game. But first half it was tight, but you never really felt like from the Stormers that the confidence was there really in them, to actually come back at Leinster, get themselves ahead, and then maintain a lead. There was always a kind of fragility about them, and it's similar. I don't think Stormers are in the same position as Ulster, but it's something similar to Ulster where if things are going well for them, and they have chances, they can take them. But as soon as a bit of pressure comes on and things are going the other way, they just seem to fall apart. And that's what happened with Stormers in this one. Leinster, on top in this scrum. Both teams' lineouts very poor, but Stormers are even worse than Leinster. And I've talked about Leinster's lineout for a long time, for months now, about how bad it is, and talking about it's going to be fixed, but it doesn't seem to be happening with them. But the Stormers lineout, made Leinster's one look good, and Leinster's lineout was not good in that game. But yeah, I thought, for Leinster as well, having Byrne there, kind of running the show while, the likes of Prendergast, etc., are away with the Ireland squad too, was good. And it was good as well, something we haven't really touched on the channel, but, his brother Harry went to Bristol, right, on a loan till the end of the season as well. I think that was a really good move as well, because I talked about at the start of the season where you've got Prendergast, you've got Frawley, you've got the two Burns there. There's just one too many. Even if one of them is injured, you're still struggling to kind of consistently rotate three of them in through the team and give everyone time at 10. So now that his brother is gone, I think it's obviously better for him to be playing in these kind of games as well. And I think it means too that he's going to get more minutes at 10 rather than having to have, we've got the two Burns there. We need to give Harry, a decent chunk of the game, maybe 20, 25 minutes. And then Ross has to come off early or something like that. So, it was good to see him there. And also, he's going to obviously be thinking, that was me before. I was the one who was going off to Ireland, and it was the likes of Frawley, not like Prendergast. Prendergast hadn't quite come on the scene then, but it was the likes of Frawley and a few others who, and Harry as well, who were filling in at 10 while he was away. So I'm sure that's kind of on his mind too, that, and he wouldn't be like, the rugby player that he is if he didn't still have ambitions, I think, to play for Ireland. Whether he can force his way back into the reckoning or not is a whole other story there on that one. But yeah, so final score was 36-12 to Leinster, and there's a full review of this one on the channel as well. So, I talk, even though I talked probably a bit too much about them, but it's my team, so it happens a lot. But if you want to hear more, there's just plenty more on the channel. Okay, on to the next one then is Cardiff Rugby 22, Hollywood Bet Sharks 42. So, when I was doing my predictions for this I was doing, what's it called? The Super Brew, right? I was doing my Super Brew, and the first time I picked my picks, I was like, okay, yeah, Cardiff are doing pretty well. Sharks have, been pretty poor on the road in Europe, etc. And I was thinking, okay, yeah, so probably maybe a Cardiff win. But then I was kind of, I think I saw the Sharks team, and I thought, no, it's a Sharks win. Because I was expecting them to do what they'd done in the European games and, leave all the kind of Springboks at home and play, a very kind of second string team. But they had a lot of the first team in there, and they just brought home the bacon really. But Cardiff did start the game well. Mann gets over for their first try, but then we have the response from the Sharks. Mbanambi over a few minutes later. Then Julius, almost, right on the back of that as well, over for their second try. And then Mapimpi gets over as well. And, it looks like the Sharks are building up a good lead. Then Cardiff respond through Bowen before half time. Then we have into the halftime break, Mbanambi on, his second try and the bonus point try for the Sharks, like in the first minute of the second half, almost from the restart. Like Bowen is over for Cardiff then, to bring them back kind of in contention a little bit. And then you have Hammer Webb gets over like with about 20 minutes or so to go, I think, for Cardiff's bonus point try. And, although Sharks still, have the lead, it's, you're thinking, can Cardiff actually come back and do this? It would have been, I think, a real feather in the cap if they were able to do it. But no, the Sharks, Venter, and then this guy's name is Pensix, or I can't pronounce the guy's name because I haven't heard, like, he's someone that I haven't heard, being said in the commentary yet. So I'll have to watch a few more Sharks games to get it right. But yeah, in the last kind of maybe 7 or 8 minutes or something, the Sharks get 2 tries and just, deny Cardiff a losing bonus point and just seal the win as well. So decent win for the Sharks. And, other than the Bulls, really, the South African teams have been up and down this season. And, Cardiff had been flying high. And, there's a lot been made of the fact that, it's all against Welsh teams and blah, blah, blah. But as I said, in previous seasons, they've been playing a bunch of Welsh teams as well. It's not like something different happened this year. So they are doing well, but they are going to be tested now after the Six Nations in terms of, there's a whole heap of teams trying to push their way into that top 8. There's way too many to fit in there. And Cardiff, they've got to get another run going when we come back from the Six Nations, pick up a couple of wins and just keep themselves a little bit more, safer in that top 8 as well. Because otherwise, they're just going to be kind of stampeded over by the number of teams like they are starting to come into form now. But final score was Cardiff 22, Hollywood Sharks 42. Okay, on to the next one. And this was Dragons 19, Munster 38. A game that, looking at the scores, you think, okay, Munster won well, but, Dragons were in the game. Absolutely not. They weren't, honestly, not even close. So 2 minutes gone and Kilgannon is over for Munster's opening try. Then, a complete blitz from Munster. Kendallin gets over, on about 15, 16 minutes, I think. Then O'Connor adds a third try. And pretty much from the restart then, they have a penalty try as well to bring up the bonus point. And Dragons are nowhere to be seen. Then Bleuler, and honestly, Bleuler, I think was he a medical joker or something like that? What a signing for Munster to bring in as well. Guy's been absolutely fantastic. But he gets over for the 5th try before half time, and the game is done and dusted at that stage. Second half, then Coleman, first minute and a half, gets over for the Dragons, but then it's there's nothing after that. There's no real kind of comeback from the Dragons. The next score is Hodnett for Munster. And, at that stage, then it's 38-5 or something like that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 38-5 at that stage. And, the last kind of just a little bit over 10 minutes, I think, Dragons then get 2 tries, Wilson and Blacker over for them to put a little bit of gloss from their point of view on the score. But it was very one-sided towards Munster. I talked about, in the Champions Cup stuff, that you can see that Munster's attack is starting to kind of gel a little bit more. They're getting a bit more cohesion in their play, and they're steadily improving. And that's what they did the season that they won this competition 2 seasons ago. It's the same kind of thing. Poor start to the season, and then they started to kind of just get that little bit of momentum through this kind of phase of the season, and then we're just pretty much unstoppable by the time we got to the kind of the the sharp end of the season with the knockouts, etc. So they'll hope that that's what they're on again. Dragons, honestly, you wonder what they're going to do there. There's always talk in Wales, right, about we should only have, whether it's 2 or 3 regions, etc. And the Dragons are always one of the teams that are up for the chop, which is fair enough, given that they're the worst performing of their regions. Personally, for me, Ireland, we got 4 provinces, and if we had to cut a province, I'd be really, I think, well, you can't say that you're devastated in terms of sport, because at the end of the day, it's sport is sport, right? But it would be a big knock to lose, to lose one of the provinces. And you look at the provinces, and historically would say probably Connacht would be the team that would be cut, just given that the other teams have done better than them. But at the moment, like Ulster, I would say are the worst province in Ireland. But yeah, I wouldn't want to lose any of the provinces, because I talked about this many times before. I didn't grow up as a rugby fan. I kind of came to rugby later in life, but I'm old enough now that my later in life is still a long time ago when I started watching rugby. And I remember, going to Leinster games where it was, we had, like, it was in Donnybrook, right? And ground wasn't full. You were looking over like at one of the stands, nobody in that, and the one side that was covered, like, was where most of the crowd were. But a lot of the games weren't anywhere near sellouts. And if we had a big game, kind of later on when they started to grow the fan base, it was moved to the RDS before the RDS was redeveloped. So not even a massive amount there, and then it was only over time, that they started moving things to the old Lansdowne Road, and then eventually the Viva and etc., and then redeveloping the RDS. But it didn't happen overnight. Like, it's a long journey for them to do that. Like, and they were a team who obviously had talent in there, but they weren't winning anything either, And what I'm getting at is, you can't just look at a team as they are now and just decide, okay, well, this team is definitely going nowhere. Let's get rid of them and we'll be done and dusted, because they're never going to be anything. I think, you have to get the right people in place that have that plan to say, over the next 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to improve not just the team, but the whole organization. And, I don't think the Dragons have that at the minute. And I don't think there's really anybody in Welsh rugby who's doing that with the regions in a joined up manner either. In Ireland, we have a lot of kind of input into our provinces from the IRFU in terms of, and actually I'd like to see more, in terms of just, recruitment and development of players, etc., and what they want to see in terms of the kind of long-term goals, etc., for rugby in Ireland, right? And I'd like to see more, because again, I think that there's players at Leinster who, for half of the season are probably sitting in the stand, who could be at Ulster or at Connacht or maybe even at Munster as well, and playing, maybe twice as many games as they're playing now, and I don't see why that shouldn't happen, because it's not always going to be that Leinster have the best players, right? Because there was a time when Munster were producing the best players and Ulster were up there as well. So, yeah, for me, just coming back to the Dragons, is that I'd love to see a team going in there, and I don't mean like a team of players. I mean like a team that's going to run the organization and have a plan that isn't like, how do we survive until the end of the season or whatever, right? That's what it feels like from an outsider. I'm sure that's not what's happening with them. I'm sure they have people in there who are trying their best to turn things around for the Dragons, but it doesn't feel like there's support there from their union, and that must be like soul destroying for the people that care about the Dragons, whether it's supporters or players or coaches or the people that that are working there, whether it's like a steward or like working at the canteen or the club shop or wherever it is, or in administration. There are people that care about the Dragons and they want to see them succeed. I don't believe there's anybody in there that's thinking, oh, I don't really care. Like, this is just a paycheck for me. You know, for smaller, especially smaller clubs or regions or provinces or wherever, like there's always kind of that kind of, I think, family element to things, you know, that because I think you have to have it. You know, if you're a team that's basically every week you go out and every week you get beaten, like, you know, you can't just have a, oh, whatever kind of attitude to things, because, you know, I think they'd be gone long ago if they had that. But at the same time, again, it feels like there needs to be, you know, more kind of focus put on them in terms of actually helping them, rather than putting focus on them saying like, oh, well, we're going to cut one of the regions, you know, and people who are ex-players who are on boards of other, you know, competing regions saying, oh yeah, it should be the Dragons that get cut. Like that's not, I don't think it's helping anybody. But, you know, I'm not going to fix Welsh rugby. I'll put it that way to you, but I hope somebody does. And I hope that fix includes, you know, saving the Dragons as well, because, you know, again, the other thing is, like, you cut the Dragons, right? And you say, okay, they're gone. What do the fans of the Dragons do? Like, they just go, oh, well, yeah, I know I was a Dragons fan, but now, you know, I'm going to be like a Scarlets fan or a Cardiff fan or an Ospreys fan. They'd like, who would do that? Like, you know, like, I just find it very, very difficult. And as well, like in Super Rugby, when teams got cut as well, like the Melbourne Rebels, I think, got cut there, and then it was the Western Force or wherever. I think, you know, those teams are getting cut, or you know, people are talking about they getting cut as well. Like, you know, you built up a fan base there, and then you're just kind of throwing them to the side. I don't think it's right, but I honestly didn't start this video thinking I was going to go on a rant about the Dragons, but there we go. But yeah, Dragons 19, Munster 38. Munster starting to look a bit better. Dragons, yeah, please, somebody, you know, go in there and help those guys out. Okay, on to the next game then, and that was Glasgow Warriors 22, Connacht 19. So this one, you know, Glasgow start off, you know, with a penalty from Weir, and Connacht kind of worked their way into the game. Hawkshaw gets over for, you know, a try. And talking about guys like Hawkshaw, I'm pretty sure he came from Leinster, you know, and he was one of the players that said, listen, no, put his hand up and said, I want to play. I'll go to Connacht. I don't mind. And it's great because Connacht have a great thing of getting, like, you know, like a million absolutely brilliant backs that just keep coming in and out of that you know, province. And some of my favorite players, like the likes of Porch, that was there, like, you know, some of my favorite players, honestly, in the URC have been some of the Connacht backs that they brought in for maybe a season or two, and I just wish that they were able to keep hold of guys like that as well. So hopefully Hawkshaw's there for the long term. But yeah, he scores, and Connacht just about nudged themselves in front, but it's not for long. A couple of minutes later, Cancellieri, you know, gets over, and Weir converts it to put Glasgow back in front. And Cancellieri, you know, I remember he came back. He came back this season after. I'm pretty sure he came back after kind of a long layoff, right, with injury, and he was very shaky. I remember in the early kind of rounds of the season when he started, like, come back first, and now, like, he's flying again, like, and it's great for the Warriors. And again, this is one of these ones where it was difficult for me picking this one, because Glasgow, one of my favourite non-Irish teams in the URC, and Connacht, they're an Irish team, so you got to back, you know, your Irish teams. At least I feel that way. There's a lot of kind of Irish fans who they want their province to win and all the other provinces to lose, or a specific province to lose, and that's not aimed at any provincial set of fans either, because I believe there's fans like that in every single province. But yeah, then it was Afshar, I think, is over for another try from them with about 10 minutes to half time. And yeah, they're looking kind of, you know, in control, I would say, at half-time for Glasgow. Second half then, Hawkshaw, first minute of the half, he gets over for Connacht to, get them a bit closer to Glasgow, but they can't quite produce, the score to get themselves ahead. That might have, led to a different outcome. And then Cancellieri, with about 20 minutes, just over 20 minutes, I think, to go, he's over for his second try, and the Warriors third. No bonus point try for them in the end. And then right kind of the couple of minutes ago, I think O'Connor over for a third try for Connacht, and they get a losing bonus point out of that. So Glasgow, I think, would be happy with the win. Connacht, showed some good spirit, in the end, and got themselves a losing bonus point out of it as well. Okay, on to the final game then. This is the one that really, one that I'm happy with and I'm not happy with. And if you see, like, this is the third game that I covered this weekend. So again, a full review. So if you want longer thoughts on this game, it's definitely there on the channel for you. But, Ulster 14, Zebre 15. Zebre's first away win in 36 games. And it came against an Ulster team who, had a terrible time of it in the Champions Cup until that, comfortable win against Exeter. And then the frailty was still there. And, it wasn't like, Ulster, obviously missing players away with Ireland, etc. But they still had, the likes of Cooney, Timoney, Wilson, O'Sullivan, and a few others in there as well, So it wasn't like they were just completely denuded of experienced players in there, and it really is worrying for Ulster, but it's excellent for Zebre Parma. So this one, Zebre starting off, you can see that they have a bit of a cutting edge when they're getting out wide. They're finding space, but they're not quite finding the finish to their moves. And then Ulster just look very blunt in their attack. Zebre completely dominant at scrum time. I think Ulster won one scrum penalty in the second half after like the front rows were changed, but then Zebre, the next scrum, then mullered them again. But yeah, Zebre completely on top in the scrum. And then, Ulster's like strong maul that they normally have, very ineffective until like the very last, and I mean like the very last minute, when they got some distance out of it, and then it was too little too late really for them. But, we have Ulster, I think, got caught at a breakdown, and then Monty Maori scores a penalty for Zebre and gets them ahead. Then a few minutes later, then Stabil Bravin gets sent to the bin. Ulster with an extra man, they're trying to get over to score, and just white line fever. They're not even thinking about, is there space out wide? They're just trying to go. And then Zebre managed to force a knock on. Brilliant defense from Zebre during that period. I think that was really like the winning of the game for them. And then in the second half, then they actually put the points on, that the play had deserved in that first half. Stabil Bravin back from the sin bin. He gets over to score out wide after really good play from Garcia. And then DeRay, who was excellent at fullback, really good in the air. He gets over for a try as well. And Monty Maori adds the extra there. So they're winning at that stage 15 points to 0. And yeah, Ulster don't look like they have it within them to come back at all. They do get a score through Barrett, and it was one of those. It was similar to the first half where they were camped on the line for ages, and the only difference was Zebre were actually conceding penalties and penalty advantage, where they weren't doing that in the first half. And then eventually he kind of burrows his way over right next to the post. And then he gets over again with 5 minutes to go. And Ulster, they took a kick at goal as well. Doak took a kick at goal a few minutes before that, trying to, basically they knew they needed a penalty and a try. So they tried to get the penalty first and then worry about the try later. But the kick was absolutely, especially for a kicker of Doak's quality, just very, very poor. Not even anywhere near the post. And then right at the end, then they were trying to get themselves in position for something, but Zebre's defence was just too good. Get over the ball to win a penalty, and it honestly would have been criminal if Ulster had won that game. Even though I was cheering for Ulster, I wanted them to do it, but at the same time I didn't want them to do it, and I was happy in the end that Zebre Parma got the win, because absolutely deserved it. And they didn't deserve to be plucky losers in this one. They played most of the rugby in the game. They dominated most of the facets of play as well. And Ulster, as I said, would just look very blunt. They did get 2 tries, but Zebre were the ones who were finding the space, and moving the ball much better than Ulster. So, Ulster, I talked about all their woes at length in the video on the channel. So I've already talked too much on a lot of other subjects that I wasn't planning to cover in this one. So if you want to hear my thoughts on them in more depth, go check out the longer video that's on the channel. But seismic result, honestly, this one. Brilliant for Zebre Parma. I think brilliant for the URC. Again, Zebre, like the Dragons, talk of, maybe we're not going to see Zebre anymore in the URC, and the franchise is going to be wound down and blah, blah, blah. Like, makes zero sense to me, honestly, because I talked about the Dragons need direction and they need a plan or whatever. If you follow Zebre, and there obviously are Zebre supporters, but I mean, the wider kind of URC fan base, right? If you've actually properly followed Zebre over the last few years, you see that they've been building all the time. This hasn't just come out of nowhere, this result. Neither had beating Munster earlier on this season. Basically, they've been getting more and more competitive, start kind of almost following the Benetton model. Get competitive at home, turn over a few teams, get some confidence, and then start getting competitive on the road. And that's exactly what Zebre have been doing. And they've recruited so well, in between seasons too. And you can see everything is geared towards, having a squad that can compete, all through the season, especially in rounds like this where they have players away with Italy. I think that they, one of the best recruiters probably in the league in terms of look at their budget and look at, the players that they would have had available to kind of bring in. I think they've done a fantastic job, and this is just reward for that. Okay, so those are the results from the week, or the weekend, should I say. We're now going to have a look at the table. So, top of the table, Leinster, 10 out of 10, 48 points. So just two bonus points missed by Leinster so far this season. Next then, the Warriors in second place on 37. And, the thing is, again, is you don't have to finish top of the pile, to win the URC. We've seen that before. Finishing top 2, certainly an advantage in terms of semi-finals, etc. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, can Glasgow kind of close the gap on Leinster? Because Leinster, obviously, we've seen it every year. Leinster will have a poorer patch, even if it's just because they sent like a third string team to South Africa or something. It still allows, teams to start closing that gap. And then, another defeat or whatever on top of that, and suddenly there's nothing between the teams. But yeah, Glasgow, I think, certainly the best, second best team in the league so far this year, so definitely deserve to be there. The Bulls not far behind them, 2 games in hand, so on paper certainly could actually overtake the Warriors there. Brilliant result for them at the weekend as well at the Lions. And yeah, they're there in third place on 30 points. Then the Sharks, really good win against Cardiff, who they've just kind of leapfrogged in the table. They're in fourth place on 29. Cardiff in fifth place on 29. I think they were definitely third at the start of the weekend. So dropping down a bit. And as I said earlier, they've got to be careful now. It's so tight, below them that they could easily, in a couple of rounds go from fifth down to, 12th or wherever in the league and really be struggling from there. And then you're kind of fighting against the flow, to try and claw yourself back up. So important that they kind of consolidate their position, I think, when we come back from the Six Nations. Then the Scarlets in sixth place there on 27 points. And again, thinking about the fact that earlier on in the season, when Scarlets only had that one draw against Benetton to kind of show for their efforts in the first few rounds, people calling for Dwayne Peel to go, etc. And then they start getting results. I think it was after they lost to Connacht, I think, where they were winning, and Connacht scored the decisive, I think it was a kick right in the last couple of minutes or the last minute or so to win the game. But since then, Scarlets have been excellent and they deserve to be up there in sixth place. Hopefully they can keep that going, and kind of keep again, kind of like Cardiff, keep that pack at bay a little bit. Next then is Munster, big G up for them at the weekend. And now they're five wins, 5 losses on 26 points down in seventh. Edinburgh then in eighth place. Again, those 2 losing bonus points that they got, keeping them in the top 8 there on 24 points. Ulster are next, one of the big losers from the weekend. They did get a losing bonus point out of the game, which keeps them just ahead of Benetton on points difference, but they're in 9th on 23. Benetton then in 10th on 23 after that big defeat to Ospreys, who are right behind them now in 11th place on 22. Then you got the Stormers there in 12th place on 21, and it's getting to the stage now where you think, okay, the Stormers, they've got to kind of do similar to last season and produce a bit of a run just to get themselves further up the table and not have to leave everything to the last few rounds, to basically, maybe last 3 games, you have to win them all, and then this team has to lose, and that team has to lose, and blah, blah, blah. Then we got the Lions, who, fantastic start to the season, and have just been falling away ever since. So they're 13th place on 19 points. Connacht, 14th place on 19 points as well. Connacht, another yo-yo team. And, I talked about how I think at the moment, Ulster are probably the worst Irish province in the league at the moment, even though they are 4 points ahead of Connacht. And I honestly believe that, because Connacht, in a lot of the games that they lost, have been, very close to actually getting a win out of the game, whereas Ulster have had, some heavy defeats, etc., especially in Europe, but also in the URC as well. And they've had games where they've looked like, they're nowhere near it. Whereas Connacht have been their usual kind of inconsistent team, but never looking absolutely terrible or absolutely brilliant for 80 minutes. It's always kind of up and down in between. Next then, Zebre in 15th place on 16 points after that win against Ulster. And now, potentially, if they could bag another win in the not too distant future, they could actually move out of the bottom 2 as well. And a big gap then down to Dragons, in 16th place. Still, that's only that solitary win against Ospreys in the opening round, and sitting there on 8 points as well. So they've definitely got to motor now. They they know they're not going to catch Zebre with losing bonus points. They have to start, trying to get some wins themselves on the board and claw their way off the bottom of that table. But it's, it remains to be seen in the last 8 games of their URC season whether they can actually do that or not. Okay, so that's our table. We talked again. I'm always doing it. I'm always talking too long about the games. Well, I hope you guys don't mind. Like, I just kind of, I'm passionate about rugby, and if I get on a subject, I kind of, I let it go. I don't like to put too much structure on these videos, because if I do, then, because basically the stuff that I want to talk about, like, if it comes to me, I'll never share that if it's not in these type of videos. So hopefully you guys don't mind too much. But yeah, that's how we're looking going into the break for the Six Nations now. As I said, some of the South African teams will be catching up on the games in hand, etc., over the Six Nations period as well. So we will be kind of dipping it back in and out of URC, but for the most part, it's going to be on hiatus while, a lot of focus is going to be on the Six Nations. So with that in mind, well, let me tell you the things that definitely are going to happen, and then the things that might happen. So first off is that Wednesday we'll have a preview of the Six Nations, just looking at, where the teams finished last year and what the fixtures are, etc., and where I think teams might finish this year, and also just the opening set of fixtures for the weekend. Then we'll probably do a preview of the Ireland-England game at least, going through the teams, once the teams are out, etc. We might do previews of the other games, but, that depends on work, because I'm off the weekend, but working all week, which means that, it's tough to come home from work and then have to record 2 or 3 videos, because basically I come home, and it's not a sob story. You don't have to feel sorry for him, just explaining things. But basically, come home from work. I relax for maybe 30 minutes or so. Get my dinner ready. Have my dinner. Then I get into recording the videos that I have to do for that day. And it's not just recording either. It's like I have to get do some research for certain things, or get all the screenshots and stuff that you guys will be watching while you're watching the videos, etc., like the table that's right next to me now. Doing all that stuff, and then I'm done with that, and then it's time to basically go have a shower, get all my gear ready for work in the morning, and then it's time to go to bed. So it can be hard to commit to doing, okay, well, I'm definitely doing one video tonight, but then it's like, can I really do 3? Like, do I want to be going to bed 2 hours later than I should be, and then getting up tired in the morning and then doing that all week, etc. So again, not a sub story. You don't have to feel sorry for me. Everybody works. Everybody has busy lives, etc. It's just an explanation of sometimes. I know I'm an optimist in terms of what I might be able to produce, and I promise stuff and then I don't deliver. So I want to tell you exactly what I definitely will get done, which is, again, preview by Wednesday, and preview of the Six Nations and the first round combined, because I don't want to do a separate one, because again, 2 separate videos is then 2 separate evenings that I have to spend on it. And then a preview of the Ireland-England game, definitely. And then each of the games then, because I have the weekend off, means I'm going to be able to watch them and do reviews as well. So you'll have 3 reviews over the weekend of each of the games there. So that's the stuff that's definitely going to happen. The stuff that might happen is tomorrow we might have a video just looking at the Ireland squad and giving you my thoughts on that. And then the other 2 things that might happen is previews of the other 2 games if I get time. So that's kind of the plan for the week. I'd love to do more, but again, not a sub story, but I got to do it around work. So I've got to do the stuff that I can do, because I love doing things like stats and stuff in between. But those videos take even longer to do as well. So generally the last kind of year, like last year, it would be more towards the end, because that's when, I might have a bit more time, because we have maybe a follow week or wherever, and I can kind of spend a bit more time and stuff. But yeah, that's that. Hope you guys are looking forward to those videos. URC wise, let me know what you thought about the weekend's results, especially, honestly, Ulster against Zebre as well. I think that's a seismic result that is really good for the URC. Obviously not good for Ulster, but I think overall for rugby, in the URC, I think it's brilliant. So you let me know what you think down in the comments.